Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now over the years I've been making YouTube videos. I have returned several times to the subject of public speaking because I believe if a person can master that self-development tool of being a better public speaker, we'll be better able to communicate with people in our private lives. Our professional lives and just life in general will be easier if we can put our point across. Now this skill is generally referred to as oracy, and oracy just basically means the ability to communicate fluently. Now as I say, it's a great skill to have and to hone over the many years, but it's also a skill which can line your pocket with a bit of extra money as you go through life. Now I've certainly tried to develop my public speaking skills or my oracy skills over the years, and actually I have been able to monetize that skill. And over the last 10 or 12 years I've been able to earn tens of thousands of pounds of additional income through using some public speaking skills to positive financial effect in my life. So I'm going to give you the top 5 ways that you can monetize your public speaking skills to increase the thickness of your wallet. Now the number one way in which I've been able to monetize my public speaking skills is a theme which I'm going to call hobby speaking or enrichment speaking. Because many years ago, I'm probably talking about a dozen years ago now, I decided to try and improve my public speaking to make my professional communication skills a little bit better. And one of the ways I did this was to go out to groups like Rotary clubs, Women's Institute clubs, Probus clubs, wherever you live in the world, there will be a vast community of peer groups, community groups who meet on a weekly basis. Some meet to just have a meal, some meet to just share stories with each other or to socialize. But all of these groups, and there are thousands of them here in the United Kingdom, like to have guest speakers in these meetings that they have. Now some of them meet weekly, some of them fortnightly or monthly. There is an enormous demand for speakers in such events. Now it can be after dinner speaking if it's a dinner group, it can be after lunch speaking, but generally speaking, pardon the pun, these groups like to have a 45-minute presentation on a topic which is acceptable to a general audience. So when I established that this was an area that I wanted to get into, initially to hone my own public speaking skills, I wasn't actually thinking about cash generation at all. This was all about strengthening my own ability to speak in front of others. I started writing to the various groups in my locality. So the Women's Institute, the Rotary Club, the Gentlemen's Luncheon Clubs and things like that. And eventually I started to get bookings. So I would go along, give a talk. The talks they like are about 45 minutes to 1 hour in length, and they like to have an illustrated presentation. So delivered alongside PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever, platform that you use to display illustrated slides. Now a talk like that can be on any theme at all. It can be on history, on an inspirational character that you enjoy, learning about yourself, or it can be on any variety of topics because people just like to learn. I call them enrichment presentations or enrichment lectures. And over a period of time, I built up a small library of about 6, 7, 8 enrichment lectures which I could give to groups. And slowly and surely, as I started getting bookings to go and give talks to these groups, I built my little library of talks because I discovered what people liked, what they didn't like. Now, I used to advertise my services on a number of searchable websites which are specially provided for public speakers to advertise their services. And all of the groups that require public speakers, they go to these websites, they search on the topics, the localities where people are from, and that's where they'll ring you up and make a booking. It's actually quite straightforward. Now, I tended to do mostly luncheon clubs, which meet in the evenings, or dinner clubs. And, you know, these I would typically be paid about 50 to 75 pounds for each session that I attended and gave a talk. Obviously, they also pay for your travelling, so if you're 50 miles away, they would typically pay you additionally for each mile that you travelled, and also you would get a free meal. So you'd get a nice lunch or a dinner, and then you would give your presentation at the end of that. You'd be the sort of guest artist, if you want to see it in that way, and then, you know, you'd get some pocket money for it as well. Now, I used to give around about, I'd say an average year for me would be between 50 and 100 sessions like that in a year. Some years I did a lot more. I would do, say, 2 of those a week, maybe 2 evening appearances, or a lunch appearance and a dinner appearance. And before you know it, this all starts to mount up. It suddenly starts to become quite a lucrative amount of money that you're achieving. The better you get at it, the word of mouth spreads. So when you give a talk to, say, a Rotary club, many of the gentlemen in that club, their wives will be members of women's groups, and before you know it, you know, always carry some business cards. I've probably got some in my pocket here. Carry a business card, you hand it to people who ask you at the end of your, after the end of your presentation. They will pass it on, and I can guarantee sometimes I would give a talk and that talk would lead to 3 additional talks as a consequence of my audience passing on by word of mouth the work that you do. Now, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the better library of presentations that you build, you start to get better and better gigs. Now, I rarely do these days because I've tapered back and I do different things in my life. However, I took a booking just the other day. It was for a high-end South Coast hotel, right? Hotel on the coast of England, high-end luncheon club. Now, they paid me, I'm not going to say the amount, but several £100 to give a 45-minute presentation. They're giving me a hotel room the night before for me and my wife. They're paying for my dinner in the hotel restaurant the night before, obviously breakfast in the morning, and then luncheon when I give my talk to the luncheon club. So as you can see, if you stay in that field of endeavour, you suddenly start to, you know, these events become quite enjoyable experiences, let alone the actual money which is generated. You know, it becomes quite a pleasant socializing experience, especially dinner and lunch clubs, because you're meeting, networking with people who are quite often movers and shakers because they're a member of these sort of clubs that have guest speakers. So it can be an opening door to a different aspect of life as well. Now, the key thing is making your presentations interesting for the audiences that you're likely to speak to. And it, as I say, it can be history, it can be inspirational characters, it can be just things that you encounter in your life which you think, well, I find that very interesting, and if I find it interesting, I'm sure other people will too. I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I was on a summer holiday in Sweden, right? Stockholm. And it was a wet, rainy Saturday afternoon. I had a young child to entertain, my young son, so we looked at the things in the local area which we could go to. We went to the Nobel Prize Museum in the middle of Stockholm. It's not something I was aware of the Nobel Prizes, but knew not much about them at all. I went to the museum and I found it absolutely fascinating. And as I left that museum, I thought, this would make an excellent topic for a presentation to add to my library of talks that I give for groups. So I took loads of photographs, bought a replica Nobel Prize, and before you know it, I'd created a presentation, and that presentation has been viewed hundreds of times over audiences that I've spoken to over the last 6 or 7 years. Now, over the course of probably 10 to 12 years of giving talks like that, I'm going to estimate I have generated between £20,000 and £25,000 of income through giving talks like that to groups, generating £50 to £75 a time. Sometimes 100, 200, 300, depends on the groups, depends on their level of wealth, but it's quite lucrative. Now, in my case, I didn't keep any of the money. I made a personal decision when I embarked on that public speaking journey that every single penny that I earned would be donated to a charity of my choice. And it became part of my sort of ideology to life, my philosophy, that that is the way that I would give to charity. And it was a fabulous way of honing a personal skill at the same time as offering a valuable service to people while supporting a charity of my choice to the tune of tens of thousands of pounds. So it was a winner-winner all-round situation for me, and that's my number one way of earning money, and that is hobby speaking or enrichment speaking. Now, the second way you can earn money through your public speaking skills is by becoming a keynote speaker. Now, this generally involves you being a professional or somebody who's particularly knowledgeable in a certain area of expertise. And it could actually be anything. It could be model trains, it could be forensic science, you name it. There are conferences or conventions where people who share that interest come together, and there are opportunities for guest speakers to go and give talks. So if you've got a particular skill in that area, you just discover where the conferences are, get in touch with the speaker bookers, and offer your services. Sometimes offer your services free, because that will generate additional speaking leads afterwards. You'll be asked to give talks at groups or clubs as a consequence of being a convention or a conference speaker. Now, sometimes these conferences can be anywhere in the world, so they will pay for you to go there. They will pay for you to go and give a talk at a conference, at an event. I can tell you I had a particular expertise when I was in my professional career, and as a result of that, I gave talks in America on a number of occasions, in Germany, in the Netherlands, and other European countries. And on all of those occasions, I was funded to go and give those presentations, and even though I didn't get paid for my attendance at those conferences, actually I got a free holiday and a wonderful opportunity to engage with new people, build new networks, and push out my own professional expertise elsewhere. Now, if you are somebody who's achieved something particular in life, maybe you've climbed Everest or run 10 marathons, or you've done something of that nature, it can be anything, started your own charity, started a successful business, you can become a motivational speaker. If you can create a presentation based around your life journey that would be interesting and motivational for conferences or businesses, and businesses tend to like these speeches that are motivational, maybe team building, they teach their staff to overcome problems, they can be very, very lucrative for the guest speakers in that field. In fact, some of those gigs can pay thousands of pounds, and you can find yourself being flown all over the world, you know, in first class as a sort of guest speaker at a conference, or just to speak to a team of people in a workplace. As a reward for them, you know, motivational speaking or expertise speaking. Now, this takes a lot more skill, and it takes years to get yourself in a position where you can be seen as a bookable speaker in that field of endeavor. But absolutely, if you've got one of those skills, if you can look back upon your life and say, that was an amazing challenge that I took on and overcame, it may be something that others would be prepared to pay to hear about. Now, the number 3 way that you can turn your public speaking skills into money is by doing some contract work as a trainer. Now, you don't have to be an accredited or, trainer or teacher in order to lucratively work in this field. In fact, I do it myself. One of the ways in which I generate my income at the moment is by being a trainer for a national charity, and I deliver training in the field of well-being. So I travel around the country and I give talks to groups of people on well-being skills. It's quite straightforward. You don't have to have a qualification in it. It's simply basically being a good public speaker, working for a charity, delivering their message widely, but being paid to do so. They also pay for me to stay in hotels, and I quite enjoy the experience. It's not particularly well paid, but it's great for networking, meeting people, and again, you're honing your public speaking skills for these other things that you can do, maybe motivational speaking or enrichment speaking. It's all part of sharpening your skills as an excellent orator. Now, my fourth way in which you can generate money from public speaking is being a speaker on cruise ships. Now, this always sounds very attractive to people, but it's one I've never actually done myself because it's quite a niche thing. Because if you've ever been on a cruise, you will be aware that cruise ships, when they're having a sea day, so they're traveling from one location to the other at sea, they offer enrichment lectures for the guests for something to do on that journey. And in order to provide those enrichment lectures, they book public speakers to go on board and to deliver those sessions. And normally a public speaker will have to deliver no more than one session per day. So one 45-minute to 60-minute lecture per day whilst you're at sea on a ship. You don't get paid for it though, right? It's not that good. You get a free trip. So for you and your partner, say your wife or your husband, whomever it may be, you get a free holiday. And you get treated as a guest. So you eat on the boat, you enjoy all of the experiences of being on the cruise ship in order that you are available as a guest speaker. Now, if that's something that sounds very interesting, it's also quite challenging because you have to be available for these cruises. They're often a couple of weeks in length. You can't book them way up in advance sometimes. They can be a little spontaneous, so you have to have a fair bit of availability. So it does favour people who are perhaps retired or semi-retired who have something of a flexible diary. But if you can hit that criteria, it's a great way to go. How do you get into it? Well, first of all, you need to have curated a library of talks which are going to be very interesting for a broad section of the community, so general type of themes. And you have to have 6, 7 or 8 of those in your portfolio that you can draw upon while you're out at sea, because you can't just give the same one over and over again. And like I say, it can be a really good way to go. Now, to get into that type of work, you need to register with a cruise ship speakers agency. There are loads of websites out there that you can get registered on, and then the world awaits. Now, my final way in which you can monetize your public speaking skills is the one which I'm speaking to you on now. YouTube. All right, I came to YouTube about 3.5 years ago, and I came here primarily because I knew I could speak in front of an audience because I had a lot of experience of doing that. But I'd never actually thought about utilizing that on an online platform. So I came along, I set up my channel, and if you have a topic or theme that you're really interested in, that you think you can speak on week after week, or if you are somebody who has strong views and you like to pass your observations on things, maybe you like to watch movies and review it online, or like me, you like to talk about men's style and self-development, and you can continually produce content week after week, you can make not a huge amount of money. I mean, it's not that lucrative, but certainly it can become an income stream for you. So there we go. Those were my 5 ways in which you can turn a skill into a financial income in your life. I hope you found today's video useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you'd like to see more in the future. Don't forget you can add to the dialogue by leaving your comments in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can either buy me a coffee or become a patron. You'll see my patrons' names at the end of the video, and they get additional video content from me every week. So, don't forget, take care, speak with confidence, and who knows, it can become an income for you in the future. So until the next time, I'll see you again very soon.